Hello everybody, and welcome back to the New Mindscape. Today in this series of videos I'm going to be talking about cosmos and the environment, religious and spiritual understandings of the relationship between human beings and the world around them. In today's culture, we don't talk to non-human beings. But throughout human history, and in many human tribes and societies, actually it's been quite normal for people to speak to or to communicate with plants and objects, animals, mountains, trees, and different features of the environment. This is actually a regular and integral part of their culture. So, is this something that can be understood? Does this make sense? Or are these just people just ignorant and crazy? So, as I mentioned before in some of the earlier videos, modern society is characterized by a materialist or naturalist ontology or operating system, in which the world is divided into two categories of beings. On the one hand, you have humans who are endowed with personhood and interiority or subjectivity, and non-humans, on the other hand, who have material existence, but they have no subjective agency. So this is a categorization or a definition of naturalism, or what I would call dualistic materialism, which has been proposed by the anthropologist Philippe Descola. So, according to this description of the dualistic naturalist ontology, having material bodies like non-human beings, we humans are part of the world of nature. But we're also endowed with interiority and subjectivity. And so that makes us radically different from the world of nature, and it also makes us each of us different from each other, because each person, each of us, has a different subjectivity. So we all have a body which follows the laws of nature, which are universal and which are the same for everybody, but we each have our own subjectivity, which is different and unique for every single person. According to this ontology, then the human being is, on the one hand, is part of nature. The human being has a body, which is an animal body, which is made of chemicals and material substances, just like other bodies and other beings. But according to this ontology, only the human being has interiority, that is to say, consciousness and subjectivity. Well, maybe the dog also has a little bit of interiority, or some animals, but generally speaking, according to this ontology, only the human being has consciousness and subjectivity. And so we basically have this dualistic division between humans on one side and non-humans on the other. And so this is the dominant ontology or operating system which is normal in our society, in which you can only communicate with other human beings. Only humans have consciousness, and so humans can communicate their subjectivities between each other. So within this ontology, if you see a plant, a mountain, the wind, the sun, or animals, well, you might try to feel some connection to them. You might appreciate them. You might even respect them. You might find meanings from them, but they never directly communicate with you. They don't send special messages or signals to you. Unless, again, they're dogs, your pet dog, that tries to communicate with you, or a few other species of animals. So, although there might be a few borderline cases in which a certain animal, like a dog, a cat, or some other pet, can receive or understand messages or signals from human beings, generally speaking, in the naturalist ontology, there's no genuine communication that's possible between humans and non-humans. if you talk to the trees, to the bees, and to the sun, well, you're just crazy. In this ontology, if you meet a non-human, again, except perhaps a dog, well, you know how to deal with it. You don't talk to it, and it won't talk to you. It has its external appearances, its shape, its color, its structure, but it has no subjectivity. It doesn't have any consciousness, and it only exists as an external being. It has exteriority and no interiority. That's the world of nature in our ontology. Nature doesn't think, it doesn't have consciousness or the ability to communicate. If you think some non-humans have feelings, well, that's your subjective belief, because there's no way to prove it. So this is the naturalist or dualist materialist ontology. Sociologists consider this operating system to be disenchanted. That means that there was once an enchanted world, like in a fairy tale, in which humans and non-humans could communicate meanings to each other. But since we've moved into modernity, we've developed a disenchanted worldview in which there is no communication possible between humans and non-humans. Sociologists and philosophers say that as this materialist, naturalist worldview has become preponderant in modern societies, the world has become disenchanted. As this great sociologist Max Weber said, the world has become like an iron cage. And this type of disenchantment is contrasted to other ontologies, other operating systems that are enchanted. So what is an enchanted world? According to the philosopher Charles Taylor, in a disenchanted world, all meaning is in our own mind. We give meanings to things, but just as Sartre and Camus had shown, there's no meaning intrinsic to anything in the world. All meaning is ultimately all in our own minds. But in an enchanted world, not only is there meaning intrinsic to the world, there is meaning intrinsic to objects and to invisible agents such as gods or spirits, but these beings can communicate meaning to us. They can communicate things to us that we don't expect. They can communicate meanings and ideas to us. So, in other words, in an enchanted world, we're in communication with the visible and invisible world around us. And in a disenchanted world, we only communicate with other humans.